Sorry to interrupt this great video, but please remember to like and subscribe. Thank you. Now back to the video. When I watch all this camp stuff, I will say that I think there are grains of truth in everything. I think you can edit it any way you want. I don't think it means everything. I think there's something. Um, I'm going to still stick with my prediction that JJ McCarthy will, if he does have success, it's a little bit of a Brock Purdy thing. It's the coach, it's the left tackle, it's the weapons that will put him in a place that I think elevates him beyond what he would be with average personnel, average coach, or bad. I don't think Brock Purdy's good enough to save a bad situation, but I think in the current situation with Trent Williams, Kittle, Jennings, Shanahan, McCaffrey, I think more than capable. I tend to think McCarthy is going to fall into that. Left tackle, head coach, running back, tight end. I think JJ McCarthy would have to be bad not to have some Brock Purdy level success where he's not a physical specimen, but he can complete passes and move the chains.
I do think though Brock Purdy got to come in toward middle of the end of the year, right? So there was less pressure, and let's face it, when Jimmy Garoppolo shattered his ankle, the expectations for Brock Purdy were zilch. I mean, I thought their season was over. And then the kid just started rattling off games. For J.J. McCarthy, a little like Trey Lance when the 49ers drafted him, kind of like Caleb, but we didn't really believe in Eberflus. It's pretty rare that a guy that was drafted pretty high starts on a team that, what do you think is a fair expectations? Anything less than the NFC Championship game with their roster, their coaching staff? It's really, really high. It's not like 9-8 and some growing pains. Justin Jefferson had some comments within the last week. You could just tell it's like our expectations here are high, and it's like this is a work in progress. Now, the good thing is you can get better, right? He might not be, same with Caleb, same with a lot of these guys. What they look like in September, they might look a lot better in November. But it can go the other way too. It can break you. So if you have a couple tough games, how do you handle that adversity? That's really what all the NFL is, right? Is handling the tough times to get to the better times.
I was reading somebody in The Athletic rank the coaching staffs, and I didn't disagree. He had Minnesota as the best coaching staff in the league. I think he had San Francisco with Kyle and Saleh too.
Are you talking the whole staff?
Basically head coach, top two coordinators. He had Minnesota number one. And I think, and I've said this about Brock Purdy, literally, he got the keys to a Mercedes. You get Shanahan, McCaffrey, Trent Williams, at the time, Debo, IU, Kittle. That's hard to mess up. If you're just capable, if you're quick above the shoulders, which I think J.J. McCarthy and Brock Purdy are, I think they're smart guys. The downside to it is it's not, it's a hard eval. It's hard to evaluate somebody when they're, it would be like putting somebody with Charles Barkley, Shaq, and Ernie Johnson. It's hard to really say what Kenny Smith is. Certainly capable, but his role on that show is to kind of poke the bear and just kind of have fun and be the straight man. And so it is hard to make it's an easy evaluation on Jaden Daniels last year. Oh shit. He's carrying a bad O-line, a defensive coach, a one-weapon offense. Wow. It's like Andrew Luck, easy, or Herbert's rookie year. Wow. This is impressive. I think JJ is going to be a hard evaluation because how much of the success is based on, let's be honest. Last year in week 14, Sam Darnold was first or second in MVP. He was a bust going to Minnesota. So like now, I don't even know quite what to make of Darnold. What is Darnold?
Well, I'm pretty high. I think Darnold, I think their team's going to be pretty good, given health, the talent in Seattle. I would expect, pretty high things for Sam. Maybe not to throw 35 touchdowns, but to just be a solid player in the NFL moving forward. Be a guy that's on the good side of the top 15 of the quarterbacks, not, somewhere between 22 and 32, like most people thought he just sucked. But one thing going back to Darnold, he said that changed his career was not just Kyle believing him, but watching Brock Purdy operate. And the thing that separated Brock Purdy immediately was not his height, was not his arm strength. It was all the intangible stuff, which he had built for 4 years at an, let's face it, when he got there, kind of an average football program that him and Matt Campbell transitioned into a high-level football program where he was getting offered by USC. And a big
Yeah.
reason was because of Brock Purdy. I mean, let's face it, Mel Tucker got some big jobs because, got a huge extension because of Kenneth Walker. Sometimes one or two individuals at
Yeah.
not the top tier programs can change the course of your career. So Brock Purdy, his intangibles are a huge separating factor for why, all the guys with the 49ers, coaches and
Yeah.
players believe in him. And, JJ, he's just going to have to prove it, and it's going to have to be part of his repertoire. Are you getting there at 5 in the morning? Are you grinding Monday through Saturday? Because that's all these quarterbacks. That's all they talk about. It's not just the grind on. Tom Brady's been talking about Mondays and Tuesdays for 15 years.
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the things that Brock Purdy had a real, we're talking here, JJ McCarthy, Brock Purdy. The comp is, they're a little smaller than you'd like. They don't have huge arms. There were questions about both. One's a first round pick, and I think a bit overdrafted. One's a seventh round pick, clearly underdrafted. But the one thing that Brock Purdy had on JJ McCarthy, Brock had to carry pretty average players. Now he had Brees Hall, but by and large, it was Iowa State guys. Whereas JJ McCarthy was carried by the best O-line in football, a loaded roster. And I've always said this, John, I've been saying this, I wrote about this in my first book. You would think it's very linear. USC should have 25 great NFL quarterbacks in the history of the NFL. They have one, Carson Palmer. Is that you would think LSU has 15 or Bama's got 12 and Ohio State has 14. They don't. Because it's an advantage in college to go to Cal, like Goff and Aaron Rodgers, or go to NC State, like Russell Wilson did for 3 years, or Phillip Rivers, because you don't throw to five-star receivers, and you're always hurried, like Matt Ryan or Big Ben. Big Ben at Ohio State would have sat in that pocket for days. At Miami of Ohio, he had to be the playmaker. So the advantage Brock Purdy has is, dude, I'm carrying mostly average dudes. Right? Like when you face Oklahoma, the 22 starters has 19 guys would start on Iowa State's roster. And so one of the things about JJ McCarthy, my biggest question, he's never once had to carry a football team.
Well, I think in a perfect world, JJ McCarthy, honestly, his comp also, ironically, with 49ers, a little Jimmy Garoppolo, just in terms of like playing in the sense of not carrying the team. His physical skills, pretty solid. JJ's a better athlete. But look at Jimmy, who was drafted in the second round, got to sit, learn, was not thrust into anything, obviously benefited from Tom Brady. JJ's getting thrown into this thing. Imagine if Jimmy Garoppolo had just been thrown on the Patriots like year two. His career, I mean, who knows? Maybe it would have gone well, but it could have gone. It was an intense environment. Not quite that because they had been winning championships. And obviously Kirk Cousins is not, and Sam Darnold are not Tom Brady. But there is an intensity with everyone in football going, yeah, it's one of the best rosters in the league, if not the best. Oh, yeah, and if you do the coordinator combo, which the head coach and Brian Flores, that's as good as it gets. So we just saw him last year. They had all those injuries toward the end of the season, and Sam, didn't play great either. But that O-line injuries with Sam Darnold, like he's kind of crumbled at the end. But at least they were in the fight. I mean, they were going into the last game with 14. And think of all of the big plays. I mean, a huge part. I remember watching Sam Darnold's introductory press conference, and one of the questions they asked Mike McDonald was, how big of an evaluation process was that game that he played against you and threw that touchdown to basically knock you out of the playoffs? He's like, obviously, I had a front row seat, and I'm the defensive guru. I mean, he didn't exactly say this, but the defense is my baby, and he's eating me alive. So how could it not play a part? Now you got to be careful with that. It was the aggregate body of work over the course of the season, but Sam Darnold threw 35 touchdowns last year.
I know.
Like Matt Stafford threw 20. So there's just a lot of pressure on JJ. It's going to be hard to just have a season where you throw 20 touchdowns, especially as a young player. You're probably going to throw some picks and have a record that's competing. I mean, it's hard to make the playoffs. The NFC might not have, beside the Eagles, maybe not the powerhouses of like the Bills, the Ravens, and the Chiefs. But I think they go 10 deep of teams that are just going to be tough.
Yeah, no, there was a 2-year window, and I've used the Cowboys as an example. There was about a 3-year window when the AFC hit on all these good quarterbacks. Burrow, Lamar, Josh, Herbert. as about a 3-year window, the AFC was noticeably better than the NFC. And now it's not. In fact, I think the AFC is better at the top. I think the NFC is deeper. I think there's just a lot. I mean, I think Tampa's really good. I think the Rams, Seattle, the Niners. You could argue everybody, if the Bears hit, is good in the NFC North. Philadelphia and Washington are excellent. So, yeah, I mean, you start looking at Minnesota schedules. There's not a lot of layups. There's not a lot of par threes. It's pretty rough.